everybody, thank you for tuning into this week's video. My name's Ruth, and if you're new to my channel, thank you for being here. You can subscribe below, you can like, you can share, you can do all of that stuff, and you can press the little bell and then you'll know every week when I post a new video so you can catch it. Alright, so this week I want to talk about spiritual life, the idea of spiritual life, what it's supposed to look like how we can discern if we are actually living a spiritual life or if we're kind of using the guise of a spiritual life to actually control and manipulate and kind of like serve as a bit of another addiction or a new identity which actually doesn't have any grounding in spirituality. So that's what I want to explore, because it's been coming up for me recently, and I know it's widely discussed amongst people I know about what actually the hell is a spiritual person, who are we to dictate who's spiritual and who's not, and the judgments that we impose on people around whether they're spiritual or they're not spiritual, and it can become really judgy and actually the antithesis of what a spiritual life is all about. So we're going to dig into all that stuff. And like spirituality, I mean, like, what does it even mean? Do you know what it means? Help me out, like give me some of your definitions below, because there isn't really a defined definition of what like a spiritual person or a spiritual life actually means. You know, like if we go back in history and back in time, spirituality was very much about religion. So it was connected to religious practices, and then as time has gone on, it's become more known to be like kind of like this vision of our own place in the wider world, like outside of like the physical realm, outside of like kind of like materialistic life and physical life, you know, inner consciousness, what's going on in our own internal lives, and then how that then connects with spirit, with nature, with God, with the universe, with the sun, with the solar system, with the cosmos. You know, there's so many different ways that people describe their spiritual life and like what they see as the bigger picture. So for you that could be like God or Jesus, or it could be the sun and the moon and the solar system. But we all have like this kind of inner world, and then we're living that inner world in the context of an outer world experience. So we've got this worldly experience and the physical experience, and then there's this kind of like deeper layer of consciousness and this inner world and our experience of that, and how we move through physical life, but in the wider bubble of this spiritual, esoteric kind of world that is different for every one of us. So, cut a long story short, I don't think there really is a definition for what it is to be spiritual. I don't think it exists. I think it means something different to every person, and I find it really fascinating because like spirituality and like health and well-being has become this huge thing. I mean, it's huge now. Like where I live, it's like yoga, meditation, veganism, gong baths, cacao ceremonies, hallucinogenic drugs, ayahuasca. It's become this like really kind of capitalist, industrialized system. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Like, I'm not here to like cast judgment on people that are making businesses out of, say, doing a cacao ceremony or running a yoga studio. Like, it's not like that, but it's undeniable that it's turned into this like millions and millions of dollars industry. And I think that the reason for that is because like religion now, you know, we all know what's wrong with religion. We don't need to go into that, but religion gave people a sense of community, it gave them a sense of purpose, it gave them a sense of story around like, you know, how to deal with life's ups and downs, how to deal with birth and death, and how to like conduct ourselves in the world. And now we don't really have that groundedness of religion. And I'm not saying I'm not personally like assigned to a religion, but it did give people that meaning. So I think that this like kind of like rise of this spiritual world and the spiritual industry is a direct result of that. And it's an interesting one because, you know, I have been to lots of spiritual retreats. I have done loads of things like this. I've bought the crystals, I've bought the tarot cards, I've been on spiritual retreat, I've done all of those things. I've been to lots of yoga retreats, I go to yoga classes, I've learned to do transcendental meditation. So I'm very aware that like I kind of like can get typecast into that idea of like what a spiritual person is and what a spiritual person kind of like behaves like and what they conduct themselves like. But I just think that that's like a load of rubbish. I do not see myself as a spiritual person any more than kind of like anyone that I know, like even if they're not seen on the outside to be particularly spiritual in this kind of like stereotypical way, it doesn't mean that I am any kind of more superior or any different to them, in the sense that they have an inner world, I have an inner world, and we explore those inner worlds and we interact with the material world through our own lens, and they are just the same as me. We're all walking this planet together. We can all kind of offer each other so much, and I really hate that aspect of the spiritual kind of industry, is this superiority of like, oh, you know, I'm woke, which is one of the things that people say, like they're asleep, you know, like I had a spiritual awakening and now I am a new person and I'm a better person, and the people that I used to hang out with, like I can't hang out with them because they are kind of asleep, they're muggles, and I'm like fucking Harry Potter. So I really don't like that aspect of it, and I've really tried to move away from that in my own life. Like I never want to just like hang around with people that like wear yoga leggings and buy crystals and go to gong baths and stuff like that. That's not how I want to live my life. I don't want to become like this new identity for myself, that that's who I am, and I really fight against that because I can get typecast in that, and I don't want to be that person. And I've really been recently struggling with it because I feel as though there's a disconnect for me in putting yourself into that box. So you may leave another box, but then a lot of people then just jump into this box of, you know, I want to be in this spiritual world and I want to hang out with these people and I want to go on these retreats and do these things. And it's kind of like, well, why do you want to do that? Like, are you trying to run away from something? Are you trying to like control and not accept the things you've done in your life that you're not proud of, or the kind of the person you were, you want to just do away with that and become this new person, which isn't integrated. It in my opinion isn't healthy, and I don't think it's healthy to just surround yourself with one kind of person. So you want to surround yourself with people that are going to be aligned with you, they're going to support you, they're going to make you feel like, you know, you can be your best self. I totally get why that's important, but equally it's like that person, it doesn't necessarily have to look like you and be into the same things as you. Actually, then you become like living in this echo chamber like we do on Facebook or Instagram. We're in this echo chamber of voices that are the same as ours. We don't get that contrast, and we don't get that learning and that richness that we get from kind of being around people that are all different from us. And it's interesting because I recently have like been playing with the kind of box that I put myself in. So I put myself in this little bit of a box of like, I don't do that anymore. Like, you know, old Ruth would have done that, but new Ruth wouldn't, I don't know, go wild and stay out all night, or she wouldn't, you know, have a few drinks maybe because like I'd put myself in this box of that's not spiritual. It's not spiritual to do that, when actually when I start to listen to my own intuition and a lot of personal stuff that I've been going through recently, it's kind of like that's what I need right now, is like my intuition saying like I kind of like need to revisit that side of myself, and that it's not something to be like kept in the shadows and kind of kept in a box. It's very important that if you are intuitively being called to something, and you know you have to be like kind of like question stuff, be aware, what place am I doing this from? Am I trying to run away from something? Am I trying to numb out? But if you're actually genuinely like, yeah, I want to let loose a little bit, I want to be able to try new things, I want to be able to experiment, and that may not be in line with this kind of like spiritual identity that people carve out for themselves and that the industry puts to us. But you know, it's bullshit. Like, it really is bullshit. You have to listen to yourself. You have to ask yourself, like, what's right for me? What's my gut saying? What's my body saying? Is this medicine for me? Like, is having a bottle of red wine with some friends and having a cigarette, you know, like, is that medicine for me right now? And the answer can be yes, it can. And it doesn't make you any less spiritual, any less worthy. Like, there's a girl who's got a YouTube, I'll post the link below, Bad Yogi. Like, I love that concept. JP Sears, ultra spiritual life piss takes, you know, Bad Yogi, JP Sears. You know, we're allowed to take the piss out of this like stereotype. We don't have to be in that to be a really like integrated, fulfilled spiritual person. There's no way that that looks. There's no haircut or clothes or kind of approach to life. Like, you're not going to be Mother Teresa. You don't have to try and be the Dalai Lama to be spiritual. And I think it's very important not to let that kind of like guru energy and you know, you get really into certain spiritual guides, like say like the Dalai Lama is probably the most famous one, or we've got Eckhart Tolle, or you know, Osho, Wild Wild Country. You know, that said enough about that. So I'm not saying you can't take inspiration from these spiritual people, but it's very important that you are aware of your own identity, of your own feelings, and you allow yourself to be human, and you don't try and put yourself into this really rigid box. And I was just reading this book. I got this, well, I've always had a copy, but this is my new copy. It's like a leather one, it's a special one. And Walt Whitman is phenomenal, like so esoteric, transcendental. His writing is incredibly spiritual, in inverted commas. But like my favourite line from this book is, do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. Like, I am large, I contain multitudes. To allow yourself to live that largeness, however that looks for you, and not to allow like this idea that we're not allowed to contradict ourselves. I think I wrote this poem last year. It's like, if you think I'm sweet, well, taste my sour. The two combined create my power. Because like, I always get cast as like that person. Oh, she's so sweet and she's so nice. And that really like grates on me after a while, because I'm like, yeah, I am nice, I am kind, I like doing all those things, but that's not me as a whole person. Like, allow me to be bigger than that, allow me to be large. So like, allow yourself to be large. Don't allow yourself to be spiritually pigeonholed and think that you have to wear like Lululemon leggings and go and buy crystals and kind of like go to cacao ceremonies and do ayahuasca if that's not right for you. Like, if your gut's saying in you, I don't want to do ayahuasca, I don't want to conform to this idea to be in this new clique, because you can often leave an old clique and end up in a new clique and you're not ever really finding your own true identity. Like, I don't really know where I am. I'm like just with people, and I love being with all different kinds of people. So I don't want to be in a box and I don't want to be in a clique. So just something to be aware of if you are kind of going through a spiritual awakening, or you are changing and you're growing and you're not really quite sure how to navigate these new waters. It's really challenging, and just remember, like, ask yourself, is this medicine for me? And is this right for me right now? Am I doing it for the right reasons? Where's it coming from? And just allow yourself to be human, allow yourself to make mistakes, and don't be so hard on yourself. We are all spiritual beings. We are all our own spiritual gurus, and just trust in that inner voice. So like, we have this lion in our mind that's kind of like roaring at us and trying to control us, and then we have this deer. I think I should put my hand over my mic, hopefully that didn't cut out. We have this deer in our heart, and the deer is strong, like it can run, it's got all this power, and it can be very sensitive and kind of cower to the lion that runs our mind. So like, finding that space to listen into that deer in the heart and what's right for us is really key to living a genuinely wholehearted spiritual life, whatever that looks like for you. Let's not even put a definition on it. So yeah, the takeaways for this are just like, don't put yourself in a box, allow yourself to be large, allow your multitudes to flow out into the world, however that looks, however you look on the outside, however your personality projects out. You know, allow the shadow, allow the light, allow the kind of merging of all these different energies to be part of your life, and enjoy the ride, enjoy the mistakes. And let me know, like, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, if you're going through some sort of like spiritual crisis or identity crisis around this, just let me know. I've been through it all. I'm kind of going through it now. So it'd be good to talk. And yeah, if you like this video, as usual, you can share, you can subscribe, leave me comments, and I will see you next Tuesday for another video. Alright, thanks guys, bye!